posted on Facebook a couple days ago asking for any questions that you guys have that you would be interested in hearing my opinion on or my take on as far as nutrition and fitness related questions. And I got a couple really good questions to answer, and so I'm gonna give it my best shot. And thanks in advance for watching. And if you have any other questions after watching this kind of short Q&A, feel free to put them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to, if there is a lot of questions, then I'll make another Q&A or incorporate it in one of my future videos. So let's get started. How they can naturally correct a diagnosis of hyperthyroidism, particularly Hashimoto's disease. And they have been experiencing, whenever they exercise, they experience pain post-workout and then a lot of fatigue as well. So her question was, what can she do naturally to correct that, if there is anything you can do? And so to answer this question, I do want to briefly explain what Hashimoto's is to those of you who aren't familiar with the disease. So Hashimoto's is an autoimmune disease that affects your thyroid. And I'm going to take it one step back, and for those of you who don't really know what your thyroid is, it's a butterfly-shaped gland right here on your neck, and it pretty much controls your metabolism. And so what Hashimoto's does, it's a disease, an autoimmune disease that kind of attacks your thyroid glands, or the tissue of your thyroid, with your thyroid incapable of doing its job, which is to produce hormones that regulate your metabolism. So in a nutshell, that's what it is. And some of the common symptoms that you get with this kind of disease, or any kind of thyroid disease in general, is fatigue and drowsiness. And this isn't like typical, oh, I'm tired at like 4 or 5 o'clock. This is a constant chronic fatigue that just doesn't go away. Drowsiness throughout the day, despite a good quality night's sleep the night before. Actual weight gain, seeing even weight gain, or the inability to lose weight if you are trying to actively lose weight. Any kind of digestive issues, so constipation, bloating, any negative effect that you're getting from foods that you're eating, not able to digest foods normally. Any muscle soreness, and by muscle soreness I mean not the muscle soreness you get after a really good workout and you're sore the next day and then it goes away. That's not the symptom I'm talking about. Muscle soreness as chronic muscle soreness. So you're always aching. Your muscles are aching. And so those are some common symptoms that you get from thyroid disease, specifically Hashimoto's. And as far as I know, and from all the research that I have done, because I don't know actually if you guys have actually been following me on my blog, but I have been going through a little bit of thyroid issue and adrenal issue myself, so I personally did a lot of research on this topic. That's why I'm kind of versed in it, and my current nutrition therapist has also been really educating me as well. So as far as I know, the only treatment for Hashimoto's is by obtaining some type of hormone replacement therapy. And what that means is you're going to be taking a pill every day, and that pill contains one of those thyroid hormones that are kind of in charge of your metabolism. So that is my only knowledge of an actual treatment of the disease. There are things that you can do naturally, though, to alleviate the symptoms if you currently are diagnosed, or maybe even to alleviate stress on your adrenal glands and your thyroid glands. And so I'll go over those briefly, but again, everything I'm about to say, it's not a treatment. I don't want to say it's a treatment. I'm not a nutrition therapist, so this isn't my specialty. Again, everything that I'm saying here, I've learned from research and from talking to my personal nutrition therapist. So that's my preface. But these are the things that you can do to kind of help alleviate those symptoms. First and foremost, when it comes to your diet, make sure you're getting in all of your B vitamins. So your B vitamins are known as your energy vitamins. What that means is that your B vitamins, specifically B6 and B12, are used to help break down your food that you ingest in order for your body to produce ATP, which I'll say that a couple times in this answer when I'm talking, but ATP is energy that your body uses. So make sure you have B vitamins in your diet. And I mean, I'm not going to list food sources for that, but if you aren't sure, then, or you don't think you are ingesting enough or consuming enough foods with B vitamins, I would, encourage you to either, get a multivitamin that has enough B vitamins in it, or supplement with just B vitamins, which they have out there. The second thing, as far as your diet is concerned, is to make sure you're getting enough protein. So a lot of people, especially the people that I have been coaching and I've been kind of looking at their diet, I've noticed that their protein intake is relatively low. And that is one thing, the main thing that I get, as far as feedback from them when they check in with me, is it's a lot harder to get, enough protein in my diet than I thought it was going to be. So getting enough protein is definitely key, and that's because protein are made up of amino acids. Amino acids are enzymes, and enzymes are required for ATP production. There's that word again. So enzymes are needed for your body to produce energy. So make sure you're getting enough protein. Overall, just make sure that your diet in general is very nutrient dense. And what I mean by that is to make sure that what you're eating is full of vitamins and minerals. Making sure you're hitting all of your micro and macronutrients for the day. And that's important because, like, enzymes are needed for ATP production, vitamins and minerals, specific vitamins and minerals, are required in that whole process of ATP production. So if you're lacking certain vitamins and minerals, then your body's not going to be able to utilize that production very well, if that makes sense. So as far as your diet is concerned, those are my main things I would encourage you to do if you're not already. And then one last thing that is to avoid stimulants if thyroid is an issue with you. And unfortunately, that's pretty hard, especially with someone who is suffering from chronic fatigue and drowsiness all day long. The first thing that they're probably going to reach for is a cup of coffee. And unfortunately, caffeine is considered a stimulant. And so it's saying research has shown that stimulants add additional stress to your adrenal glands. And that's one thing that you don't want to do. That's what you're trying to limit, is to reduce or eliminate as much stress as you can from your adrenal glands so that they can help the thyroid gland work a little bit better. And so avoiding stimulants is a good thing, and that's, caffeine, that's tobacco, that's alcohol, it's even diet pills. So I hope I answered your question as far as the limiting and reducing the fatigue and pain post-workout. I think by incorporating some of these things in your diet, you'll see that helps a little bit. The amino acids will help with muscle soreness post-workout for sure. And I have a blog post about that, and so I'll post that down below if you're interested in reading more about how amino acids help with muscle recovery. But great question. Thank you. Okay, so the next question is, how do you stay motivated when you are injured or sick? And then in addition to that, how do you change your diet in order to accommodate for the decreased activity or the potential decreased activity due to the injury or sickness? And that's a great question. Unlike my last answer, there's not really any scientific research behind it. There may be some psychological research, but personally, because I'm going through a mixture of an injury/sickness, but it's more of a metabolic issue, And so it's forced me to significantly decrease my training, that kind of thing. If you want more information on all of my journey, link below to my blog, and it talks all about that. So yeah, I'm not going to talk about that now. But back to the question. So for me, what's worked, and it could be different for anyone, I have to frequently remind myself of my goal or my goals. And that looks different for everyone. That frequency is different for everyone. It could be, and these are just some examples, having pictures or photos of reminders of what you're striving for, quotes, encouragement that you've gotten or that you've heard, or just any kind of motivation that's going to keep you going or keep you pointed to your goal, keeping that in mind. That's always a good thing. So that's the first thing. Something else that has been a learning process for me, but I've found it's very beneficial once you kind of grasp it and understand it, is that knowing that sometimes rest is a good thing. And when I mean rest, you're like, well, Casey, being injured and sick isn't what I would consider rest. And no, it's not, what we would consider restful and relaxing. But to your body, it's rest, because you're significantly decreasing activity, whether it's, forced or you really don't have a choice. And it just allows your body to kind of slow down and recover and reset. And sometimes that's a good thing. And sometimes we need that. So that's a good thing to remember too, that it's only a short period of time. This rest period, this window of inactivity or injury is temporary, and there's nothing that you can't bounce back from. The third thing is to, unfortunately, this is the mental part of it, and this is the thing that I can preach on, but when it comes down to it, the individual, that person, is the only one who's responsible for this, and that's to implement as much self-determination as you can. And that requires, discipline, self-motivation. Whatever that looks like for you, you're going to have to do it. And I can't really preach anymore on that. It's just, when you go through something like this, which, I just said that I have and I still am, you really learn quickly what your level of self-determination, motivation, discipline, consistency, that kind of thing is, like perseverance through things. You learn that quick. So that's another thing. So implement as much self-determination as possible. And lastly, this is a really good thing, and it kind of goes back to reminding yourself of like your goals and what you have in mind, like what you're striving for long term. It's to remind yourself of like the growth and the progress that you have already seen. So if that's something like, you're injured, for instance, and you're not able to exercise like you have been, but exercise is relatively new to you and you've only been doing it for, 5 or 6 months maybe. Remember where you first started. Remember when you could barely curl 10-pound weights and now you're curling 15s for, 8 to 10 reps. Remember how you were intimidated to enter the squat rack or put that barbell on your back, and now you're doing it just fine. Remind yourself that you couldn't hardly run 5 minutes without having to stop, but now you're up to 2 miles. Things like that. So maybe not necessarily visual progress all the time works, but think of physiological process or progress that has, you've seen. So that's what I would say as far as how to stay motivated. Everyone is motivated by different things. There are internal and external motivators, but I can guarantee, both from experience, personal experience, and from professional experience, what I do as a coach in the corporate wellness field, the best motivation to have is internal motivation, because that's the kind of motivation that's going to keep you going long term. Now, on the flip side, that second part of the question, how do you change or manipulate your diet to accommodate being injured or being sick? Well, I have two ways you can go for this question. First off, if your injury or your sickness is completely restricting you from any kind of activity, pretty much bedridden. Your doctor's saying no physical activity, no weight-bearing exercises, that kind of thing, then the answer to that question is you're going to have to probably decrease your caloric intake just a little. And the reason for that is your body's been used to burning X amount of calories through physical activity for X amount of days, weeks, whatever. So in order to maintain the weight you have now without gaining weight, you're still going to have to see that caloric decrease somehow. And so if you're not getting it through physical activity and exercise, you're going to have to take those calories away from the food you eat. So that's my answer for that. My second avenue is if your injury or sickness is present, but you are able to do some sort, if your doctor hasn't said no to anything, then here are my two examples. If you have a head cold, anything from neck up, congestion, allergies, that kind of thing, my rule of thumb, head up, you can work through it. Yes, you may not feel good. Yes, you may not be able to breathe as well, so it will impact cardio. But my thought for that is work through it, do what you can. Don't push yourself till you can't breathe or it's really uncomfortable, but work through it. And then my second thing is, so that's a head cold example or anything from the neck up. The second thing is if it's like a muscle or area specific injury, then work around it. I have so many people that come to me and say, I can't exercise at all because, and this is just a common example, plantar fasciitis is what they have. And so that, that's obviously in your foot. So any kind of treadmill, elliptical, any bearing exercise on the feet obviously is gonna hurt or is gonna irritate that area. So what can you do instead? You can do some strength training. You can isolate your upper body instead of working more on your lower body and putting pressure and exerting energy on your lower body. You can do, as far as cardio, you can do things that don't require pressure on your lower body. Swimming is a great option. It's a great cardiovascular exercise, and it takes a lot of added pressure off of your entire skeletal system. You can do a recumbent bike, so it takes the pressure off of your feet, and they're out in front of you instead of underneath of you. So again, whatever there is, work through it or work around it if you are able to exercise to some degree. That way you're not going to have to restrict your calorie intake as much. So I hope that answered the question, and it was a good one, and it's, I think, more common than you realize.